So hi Izzy, hi Ellie. Anyway, we're on 6.1 Other African Cultures, and we're going to be studying about the history of Africa. And as you can see here, Africa, this large continent, on the other side of the world from us, actually. And so basically it was called the Dark Continent because not until the last couple hundred years it hadn't been explored, especially in the center of it, in the Congo area. And so that's what they used to call it. And we don't call it the Dark Continent anymore. Although, if you look at this picture, it looks like the lights are mainly on the outside, looking compared to Europe, So, of course, we're going history when they didn't have electricity. So the Dark Continent, because it remained unexplored until the 19th century. It had a unique landscape. It has a unique landscape still with a series of plateaus and varying elevations. So there's magnificent contrasts of terrain and climate. In fact, they have deserts, rainforests, mountains, deep valleys, and even volcanoes. Don't you love that picture? That looks like the Serengeti area where we were when we went there. I went on a safari there. It's very beautiful, and that would be the savannas or the grasslands. Deserts, rainforest, and savannas. Well, 2/5, this is a number you have to know. It's actually on one of your questions. It says 2/5 of Africa is desert. 2/5 would be like 40%, right? So 40% is, that's almost half deserts. And the Sierra is the world's largest desert. And the Kalahari Desert is much of the southern area too. So these two deserts are humongous when you come to looking at Africa. I like this picture of the Sierra here, especially because, we think of it never getting water, but sometimes it monsoons in certain parts of it. But most of the time it's very, very dry, anyway. So let's go on to the savannas, and the savannas are between the deserts and the rainforest. The rainforest is kind of close to the equator, of course, and the savannas being in between, and then the deserts more on the north and the south end. And so here we have a picture of the jungle into the Congo area, the jungle, and then we have the savanna. I love this, it has a little rainbow here in the midst. Beautiful picture of a savanna in Africa. So the savannas have both wet and dry seasons. The deserts are mostly dry seasons. Like I said, they rarely get water. Like this would be not very happening all the time. So anyway, so let's go on to the next. Mountains. Mountains, we have the Atlas Mountains, and they're way up on your map in the north part of it, I would say close to the Mediterranean Sea there, and between Algeria through Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisian, or Tunis, okay? So in between there, you'll see those Atlas Mountains, and they're Africa's longest mountains, being 1,500 miles long. So not as long as Rocky Mountains are though, but going up. So Mount Kilimanjaro is the tallest mountain at 19,330 feet. It has snow on the top most of the time. That is pretty tall. In fact, the mountains on continental United States are not as tall as that. So we're talking about, it's not quite as tall as Mount Everest, of course, but it's pretty tall. So here's a picture of Mount Kilimanjaro. And then there's Mount Kenya. And Mount Kenya is a high mountain too. Here's a picture of Mount Kenya. African topography. So you can see here, this is a neat map because you can see how the mountain ranges are around the edges of, this is the Atlas Mountains up here that we talked about. This is an old map, it says Africa. See how they spelled it here. So you'll see the Atlas Mountains up here. When you come down here, this is where Mount Kilimanjaro and the big mountains are here, right through here where the Great Barrier Reef is, and we're going to be talking about that. So look over here and you can see where they are. You'll see Mount Kilimanjaro's right here. Mount Kenya's close to that, so we're over here. And you'll see this is where the Congo Basin is here, the Congo River coming through here. And up here, these Atlas Mountains. So, and the Libyan desert's here, but the Sierra Sahara is the desert here, Kalahari Desert down here, and then we have the plateau and the Ethiopian highlands. This is the Great Rift we're going to be talking about, the Nubian Desert up here, and the Arabian, this is part of the Arabian Desert. Sahel, when you go in this area, this is basically the savannas or the grasslands, and you'll have grasslands here too. So see that. You look over here and see the depths, all the elevations here. Bodies of water now. Nile, of course, we studied the Nile, is the longest river in the world. But we also have some large rivers, other large rivers in Africa. The Niger River, the Congo, the Orange run westward towards the Atlantic Ocean. So they're going to the Atlantic Ocean, so they're going to run westward. We'll look at those. And then we have Zambezi and Limpopo, and they run into the Indian Ocean. And then we have Lake Victoria, and that's the largest lake in Africa. It's also the source of the Nile River. It's a humongous, beautiful waterfalls here. Look at how these waterfalls. So you see where the Great Barrier Reef is. There's like a cut in a slit in the earth almost, and then you have these beautiful waterfalls flying down, I should say, into this reef area. And this is in Lake Victoria, that largest lake. Lake Tanganyika is the world's longest lake. So world's longest lake. It's pretty long. We'll see that in the map. And it's the second deepest source of the Congo River. It's a second deepest source, and it's the beginning, the source of the Congo River. Should be a comma there. So which means it's the second deepest lake in the world. A lake in Russia, of course, is the deepest. And so we have this second deepest, and it is also the source of the Congo. So Tanganyika is the source of the Congo River, and Lake Victoria is the source of the Nile River. Here's a picture of Lake Tanganyika. See how beautiful it is? You can almost see to the bottom. It's a pretty clear lake. Lakes and rivers. So major rivers and lakes. So we already went through these, so I just want to show you on the map where they are. And of course we have Lake Victoria, and out of Lake Victoria comes the Nile River, the longest river. And it's one of the few rivers that flow from south to north. Remember I said everything's opposite. So we have the lower and the higher, and the higher is going to be the south, and the lower is going to, the lower is going to be the lower and the south are opposite from each other, I should say. So when you look up here and you think this is higher, this is going to be the lower, and this is going to be the higher, because it's a higher elevation because the Nile's flowing to the delta. And so then we have, that's Lake Victoria, and then we have Lake Tanganyika right here, the longest. See how long this lake comes down here, and it joins another lake, Lake Nyasa, right down here. And then the Zambezi River flowing this direction. So Zambezi River. And then we have the Congo River flowing this direction into, this is the Atlantic Ocean, flowing from Lake Victoria. And we have the Niger River flowing in this direction over to the Atlantic Ocean. So see how these rivers flow, and the Zambezi River flowing that direction too. Great Rift Valley. The largest rift in the earth is here that goes through Africa. It's 4,000 miles, a rip, like a rip. See, it looks like a rip in the earth. And it begins in Asia with the Jordan Valley and Dead Sea. So it goes through that area of the Jordan Valley and Dead Sea, and then comes through Africa here. It runs the length of the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden like a big crack, and then 1,500 miles through Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. So you see how this is with this crack? Look at the crack here. It's crazy. Can you imagine me standing there looking down that crack? What if you just walked through at night? That would be crazy. Anyway, it's 30 to 40 miles wide. That's quite, 30 to 40 miles wide is a huge crack. And it's 2,000 to 6,000 feet deep. So some places it's 2,000 feet deep, and some places it's 6,000 feet deep. the lakes in the rift, Tanganyika is in the rift. That's how come it's such the deepest, second deepest lake in the world. And Nyasa and Rudolph, Albert, and Lake Victoria are all in these rifts. So when we saw that rift, we saw Lake Victoria, especially where the waterfalls fall right into the rift. There's many volcanic peaks in this area, including Mount Kenya and Mount Kilimanjaro. So, wow, look at that rift. The Great Rift Valley, the things about it. Well, evolutionists, that believe that these lakes just formed over thousands and millions of years, they're baffled because their theory does not work for this type of rift thing. It could not be slow erosion at all, could not account for this big hole. It had to be some cataclysmic force, such as the Great Flood, or maybe when the Bible says when the earth was divided in Peleg's time. That also is in the Bible, which could be, but something big had to cause this rift, some kind of big cataclysm earthquake event. It could not just have just formed on its own. So today geologists admit this, even those that believe in evolution. They say, and archaeologists found within recorded history that for sure that it had to be a cataclysmic event, maybe even during the Great Flood. So even people that don't believe in God, that are thinking it's evolution, have decided, no, this could not happen that way. In fact, in Somalis, the ancestors said that their ancestors said that they walked from Arabia to Africa across the southern tip of the Red Sea before the rift was even there. So there's history of this now. History of this just written down by word of mouth by the Somalis. So, and they live in Africa. Here's a picture of the Serengeti. Isn't it beautiful? We went on basically went on the Serengeti, went through the area in a Jeep, on a safari. It's pretty fun. Serengeti is very beautiful. All kinds of exotic animals there. Okay, this is the last thing, and this is going back to the Egyptian kings, and just a little review, because Egypt is part of Africa. And here's a few of the kings like Khufu, Menkaure, Mentuhotep, or Mentuhotep, sorry I say it, Thutmose, Amenhotep, anyway, Ramses. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that there just to show that at the end, but this hasn't much to do. But anyway, that's the end. That's going to be the end there, and we'll go on to our section 6.2.